Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Feast and Faith. It's been a while. Got my ice cream here, Talenti Gelato, Pacific Coast Pistachio. And right now, we're heading to the most intense week of the year of the Catholic calendar, Holy Week. But I want to talk to you about one day this week, Spy Wednesday. And when I tell you the psychology behind this day, you'll probably be messed up. I mean, you can't unknow what you know now. So grab your food and let's go. Let's get it. The first thing first, what is Spy Wednesday? It falls on the Wednesday of Holy Week, which for us means that this year it falls in April 1st. And the name Spy doesn't come from like CAA or Jason Bourne or Tom Cruise kind of stuff. No, it comes from Judas Iscariot, the original inside man, I like to call him, the mole in Jesus' crew. And here what happens. On this day, according to tradition, Judas walks away from the group, goes to the chief priests, the religious authorities of the time, and says basically, what will you give me if I hand him over to you? And they pay him 30 pieces of silver. That's it. That's the deal. From that moment on, Judas is spying on Jesus, watching for the perfect moment to make the handoff when there aren't big crowds around. Very sly and tricky of him. Now, what's wild is that the term Spy Wednesday seems to have originated back in Ireland in the 1800s. It shows up in old Irish newspaper, and get this, even Pope Francis used it in his homily in 2020. So this isn't just some obscure Catholic trivia. This is a real deal, recognized as the day in the life of the church as well, Spy Wednesday. Now here what I love, or maybe it's kind of daunting. The gospel are basically silent on what Jesus was doing on Wednesday. Some scholars call it Silent Wednesday. Jesus probably in Bethany, I think, resting, praying for Passover. Meanwhile, behind the scene, Judas is making his move, right? Slippery, sliding snake. There's this eerie contrast. Jesus is in peace, Judas is plotting. I think good. So here's what gets really interesting here. Let's get into the mind of Judas. Because I think this is what people don't think about enough. I'm always thinking. So we just slap on the label, Judas, you're a traitor, right? And just move on. But this was a human being. This was a guy who walked with Jesus for 3 years, saw miracles, hear the Sermon on the Mount with his own ears, and he still made his choice. So what was going on psychologically, probably, right? This guy must be crazy. First theory, greed. The Gospel of John straight up tell us that Judas was in the charge of the money bag for the disciples and that he used to help himself to what was in it. So there's a pattern of what? Stealing, dishonesty, trickery, lies, right? He had access and he exploited it. And when he goes to the priests, Matthew's gospel say he asks, what will you give me? He initiates the negotiation, and that's important. They didn't come to him. He went to them. Another theory, disillusionment. Some scholars believe Judas may have connected in himself to the Zealot movement, Jewish revolutionaries who really wanted to overthrow Rome by force. So if Judas expected Jesus to be a military messiah, a political conqueror, and instead Jesus is talking about turning the other cheek and washing people's feet, that would have been crushing, right? That cognitive dissonance, holding two contradictory beliefs at one time, can break a person's loyalty. I thought he was this, but he's not. I'm going to break my loyalty with him. Theory 3, he thought he could force Jesus' hand. This is one is fascinating. Some theologians speculate that Judas didn't actually want Jesus dead. He thought that by putting Jesus in a corner, getting him arrested, it would force Jesus to finally reveal his power, to use it to overthrow the authorities and establish his kingdom, because he thought it was a kingdom of earth that he was going to overthrow right then and there. In other words, Judas was trying to accelerate the plan. And when it didn't work, when Jesus surrendered willingly, Judas was destroyed by what he had done. And then there's what Luke and John tells us, that Satan entered Judas, which theologically doesn't remove Judas' free will. It means Judas had opened the door through all these small compromises, and eventually darkness walked right in. Scary. And honestly, that's the part that really scares me. Betrayal doesn't start with a big dramatic moment. It starts with the small choices that no one sees, right? Doing a very small, silent, chipping away at your soul. Now let's talk about the money. 30 pieces of silver. How much is that actually worth, right? So if these were Tyrian shekels, which most scholars believe they were, because they were the coins required for temple transaction, each one had about 14 roughly grams of silver. And raw metal value today, you're looking at maybe a few $100. Some estimate that equals to about 4 months, perhaps, of day labor. Other estimate around maybe a few hundred, a few thousands in modern day terms. But here's the thing that blows my mind away. The number 30 isn't random, right? In the book of Exodus, 30 shekels of silver was the legal price you had to pay if the ox, your ox, gored some slave to death. It was a compensation for a slave's life. In the book of Zechariah, the prophet gets paid 30 pieces of silver for his work as a shepherd. And God tells him to throw it away because it's an insulting low amount. So when Matthew writes that Judas was paid 30 pieces of silver, he's not just recording a transaction, he's making a theological statement. Meaning, the chief priests valued the Son of God at the price of a dead slave. They saw Jesus as disposable. And Judas, he just accepted the price. So think about that for a moment. The creator of the universe valued at a slave's death compensation. That's not betrayal. That's contempt. And then Judas tries to return the money. Matthew tells us that he went back to the priests, told them he had betrayed innocent blood, and they basically said to him, "That's your problem, man." He threw the coins back into the temple and went, and unfortunately, he hanged himself. The priest took the blood money and bought a potter's field, a burial ground for strangers, because even in death, the money couldn't be clean. Okay, so here's where I want to land this. Why would Spy Wednesday matter to you, to me? I'm here eating ice cream. Why does it matter? Because every single one of us has, in the past or in the present, maybe certain Judas inside of us. I'm not being dramatic. Think about it. Judas was close to Jesus, as close as you can get. He still chose to walk away. He let small compromises build up. He let resentment, disappointment, anger, greed chip away at his loyalty until one day he came and sold out his friend, his brother, his Lord. There's a line from Pope Benedict XVI that hits hard on this. He essentially said that while there will always be unworthy and unfaithful people within the church, the responsibility falls on each one of us, me and you, to counterbalance that evil with a clear witness to who Jesus really is. Spy Wednesday isn't about pointing fingers at Judas. It's about looking in the mirror. Where I am cutting corners in my faith, perhaps? Where am I letting disappointment with God because he's not doing what I'm telling him to do start to erode my trust? Where am I choosing 30 pieces of silver over the one who gave me everything, Jesus? As we move through Holy Week towards Holy Thursday, Good Friday, the silence of Holy Saturday, and the glory of Easter Sunday, let Spy Wednesday be the day you do an inventory of your heart. Because the road to betrayal is paved with small, quiet choices that no one ever sees. So this is my episode. Ice cream, delicious. So thank you for being here. Share this with somebody who needs it. And hey, have a blessed Holy Week. I'll catch up you next time on Feast and Faith.